Elena Carter sat quietly at the corner of the crowded living room, her glass of cider in hand, when her mother's voice rose above the chatter. Linda Carter tapped her spoon against a wine glass, smiling proudly as all eyes turned toward her. Elena thought it was just another toast to Madison's engagement. She even began to clap, expecting her mother to gush about wedding plans. Instead, the words that followed struck her like a slap. "As part of our gift to Madison and Ryan," Linda announced, her tone sweet but heavy with finality, "we're giving them the house." For a moment, Elena didn't understand. The house. Their house. The one she had lived in all her life. She stared at her mother, waiting for her to laugh or correct herself. But Linda only kept smiling, her arm wrapped proudly around Madison. The room filled with polite applause and murmurs of approval. Elena's hands went cold. She felt the blood drain from her face as her father, Charles, cleared his throat. "Elena will find her own place soon," he said softly, avoiding her eyes. His voice was shaky, but no one else seemed to notice. The relatives cheered, raising glasses, as if this was a fairy tale ending. Elena couldn't move. Her home wasn't just bricks and walls. It was her anchor, her proof of all the years she had given up for this family. She was the one who had stayed behind when Madison went off chasing her dreams, the one who worked, who paid bills when money ran short, who sat by their father's bedside during his long treatments. She had sacrificed promotions, friendships, even relationships, to make sure her family stood strong. And now, in front of everyone, they had given away the only thing she thought was hers. Her sister Madison, glowing in her new engagement ring, leaned into Ryan's shoulder and smiled smugly, soaking in the attention. Elena felt invisible, as though the air around her had been stolen. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. All around her, relatives whispered words like "so generous" and "what a blessing." But for Elena, it was humiliation. This wasn't generosity, it was betrayal. And worse, it was public. Everyone saw her parents choose Madison over her, again, but this time in a way that couldn't be undone. Her fingers tightened around her glass as she forced herself to breathe. The laughter in the room sounded distant, like echoes in a tunnel. She wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, to ask how her years of sacrifice had been so easily brushed aside. But no one was looking at her. No one noticed the tears stinging her eyes, or the way her whole body trembled. Elena sat frozen in silence, her heart breaking while her family celebrated her erasure. The house, their house, was no longer hers. It belonged to Madison. And nothing would ever be the same again. She works as a high school teacher, waking up every morning before sunrise to prepare her lessons. Her job pays enough to keep her comfortable, but not enough to call her rich. She lives simply, buys what she needs, and puts away a little for the future. Many of her colleagues had moved to bigger cities or chased higher-paying jobs, but Elena stayed. She stayed because her family needed her. Years ago, when her father's health began to fail, it was Elena who carried the weight. She took him to hospital visits, kept track of his medications, and made sure bills were paid on time. Her mother, Linda, was too busy keeping up appearances in their small town, always hosting, always worrying about what neighbors thought. And Madison, her younger sister, had already gone off to chase her dreams, far away from responsibility. Elena never complained. She told herself she was doing what a good daughter should. While her friends traveled or built their own lives, she remained in the family home, helping her parents. She thought her sacrifices meant something. Every paycheck she received, a part of it went to household expenses, food, and sometimes even her father's treatments when money was tight. She did not keep track, because in her heart, it was family, and family came first. Her parents were very different people. Linda, her mother, was controlling and cared deeply about image. She wanted everything to look perfect, even when life was messy behind closed doors. She liked to be admired by friends and relatives, often pushing her daughters to behave in ways that would make the family look good. Her father, Charles, was the opposite, quiet, gentle, and someone who hated conflict. He avoided arguments, often letting Linda's voice dominate every decision. Elena loved him dearly, but she sometimes wished he had spoken up more for her. Madison, the younger sister, was everything Elena was not, or at least that's how their parents saw it. She was carefree, charming, and the golden child who could do no wrong. Teachers, neighbors, relatives. Everyone seemed to adore Madison. She had the kind of beauty and charisma that drew people in, and her parents spoiled her for it. When Madison wanted to study abroad, they supported her. When she came back without much direction, they still praised her for being ambitious. Now Madison was newly engaged to Ryan, a wealthy man who liked to show off his money as much as his arrogance. He carried himself like someone who believed the world belonged to him, and in many ways, Elena could already see he treated Madison less like a partner and more like a prize. But her parents didn't notice, or didn't care. To them, Madison's engagement was another reason to celebrate their golden child. In contrast, Elena was the dependable one, the steady one, the one her parents leaned on whenever life became difficult. She was never praised for it, never celebrated. It was simply expected. When bills piled up, Elena covered them. When her father's illness kept him homebound, Elena was the one who gave up job opportunities so she could stay close. When her mother stressed about appearances, Elena was the one who worked quietly in the background to keep everything together. For Elena, the family house was more than a roof. It was the symbol of all her years of sacrifice. Every corner of it held memories. Her father's laughter on better days, long nights of studying at the kitchen table, mornings of rushing to school. It was the place she stayed when she could have left, the place she invested in when money was scarce, the place she believed would one day be hers, not as a gift, but as proof of loyalty. That house was her identity. It told the story of her choices, her sacrifices, her patience. She never asked for much, just the respect and quiet assurance that all she had given had meaning. When she thought of her future, she imagined raising children in those same walls, or maybe finally making the house her own when her parents were gone. But now, with one announcement, that future had been ripped away. To her parents, giving the house to Madison was a generous gesture, a way of setting her younger daughter up for success. To Elena, it was betrayal. It was as if her years of loyalty meant nothing, as if her sacrifices had been invisible all along. The house was not just walls and windows. It was her life's anchor, and losing it meant losing the proof that her devotion had ever mattered. After the announcement, Elena's chest felt heavy, but she held her silence until most of the guests had left. She waited, hoping her parents would come to her, explain, or at least acknowledge the pain they had caused. But they didn't. They laughed with Madison and Ryan, waved goodbye to relatives, and acted as if nothing was wrong. Finally, when the house was quiet again, Elena stood in the living room facing her parents. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "Why didn't you tell me before tonight?" she asked. "Why would you make that kind of announcement in front of everyone?" Her mother, Linda, looked at her with a mixture of irritation and forced calm. "Elena, don't be dramatic. This is a happy time for your sister. Madison deserves a good start in life, and giving her the house is the right thing to do. You'll be fine. You're old enough to take care of yourself." The words stung more than Elena expected. She stared at her mother, searching for some sign of regret or apology, but there was none. Linda's voice was sharp, almost dismissive, as if Elena were a child whining over a toy. Her father, Charles, stood by the doorway. He looked down at the floor, his hands stuffed in his pockets. His silence said everything. He knew it was wrong, but he would not fight his wife. Elena caught the shame in his eyes, but it only deepened her hurt. If he knew this was unfair, why hadn't he stopped it? "So all these years," Elena's voice broke, "all the times I paid the bills, all the nights I stayed here while Madison was gone, none of that mattered?" Her mother's face tightened. "Of course it mattered. But we have to think of the future. Madison is getting married. She needs stability. You're single, you have a job, you'll manage. Don't act like we're throwing you on the street." Elena felt her throat burn. "That's exactly what you're doing," she wanted to scream. But the worst was yet to come. That night, she overheard Madison and Ryan whispering in the hallway. Curiosity and unease pushed her closer until she caught the words. Madison was laughing. "She'll have to leave sooner than later. The papers were signed weeks ago. The house is already in my name." Elena froze. Weeks ago? This wasn't a sudden decision made out of excitement for the engagement. It had been planned behind her back. They had smiled at her across the dinner table, let her wash the dishes, let her contribute money to family expenses, all while hiding the truth. The betrayal cut deeper than anything she had ever felt. The next morning, She confronted Madison directly. "You knew about this the whole time?" Elena asked, her voice trembling. Madison smirked, leaning against the kitchen counter. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Elena. Ryan and I need the space. You can't expect to live here forever." Elena's hands clenched into fists. "This is my home too." "Not anymore," Madison said softly, almost gleefully. "The papers are signed. It's mine now." The finality of those words sank into Elena like a blade. There was nothing left to argue. She wasn't just being pushed aside. She had already been erased. Within days, the pressure became unbearable. Her mother reminded her daily to start looking for a place of her own. Madison left bridal magazines and boxes lying around, already planning how she would redecorate what used to be Elena's room. Even Ryan made snide comments about how some people have a hard time letting go. Elena packed her belongings slowly, each item a reminder of everything she had given up. The walls felt smaller, the rooms colder. She stuffed clothes into bags, folded books into boxes, and carried pieces of her life into the unknown. She had no clear plan, no place to go. All she knew was that the house, the one thing that had held her sacrifices, her loyalty, and her memories, was gone, and her family had chosen to take it from her. She crashes at her friend Jasmine's small apartment, dragging 2 suitcases and a heavy heart behind her. The space is tiny, only 1 bedroom and a pull-out couch, but Jasmine doesn't hesitate to take her in. "Stay as long as you need," Jasmine says, trying to cheer her up with tea and warm hugs. Elena is grateful, but she can't shake the shame. She is 28 years old, a responsible teacher, yet she suddenly feels like a child with nowhere to belong. At school, she goes through the motions of teaching, but her mind is never fully there. She forgets to grade papers, stumbles over lessons she once knew by heart, and finds herself staring out the window when students ask questions. Some of the older kids notice her distraction, whispering to each other, but no one dares to ask what's wrong. Every bell that rings feels like relief, but also like failure. She used to love this job, yet now the humiliation of her family's betrayal clings to her even in the classroom. The worst part comes in the evenings. After long days of pretending she's fine, Elena returns to Jasmine's apartment, scrolling through her phone only to see Madison's posts. Her sister floods social media with photos of the house, her house, showing off new curtains, fresh paint, and wedding decorations. One photo makes Elena's chest ache. Madison standing in what used to be her bedroom, holding a bouquet while Ryan laughs beside her. The caption reads, "Our forever home. Can't wait to start our life together here." It feels like someone is twisting a knife in Elena's chest. She slams her phone down, blinking back tears. Jasmine notices her pain and says, "You should block her. Why torture yourself?" But Elena shakes her head. "I can't. I need to see. I don't know why, but I need to." The tension with her parents only grows. Linda calls one evening, her voice firm, almost annoyed. "Elena, you need to stop being dramatic. You're making this harder than it should be. Madison's wedding is coming up, and I don't want you causing problems. You should be happy for your sister." Elena bites her lip so hard it nearly bleeds. "Happy? You gave away my home, Mom. The one I kept together all these years. How do you expect me to be happy about that?" Linda sighs. "You're exaggerating. You still have your life, your job. Madison just needed a start. You're strong, Elena. You'll land on your feet." The call ends with Elena throwing her phone onto the couch, trembling with rage. Jasmine hugs her, whispering, "She doesn't deserve your tears." But the tears fall anyway. Weeks pass, and Elena tries to focus on rebuilding herself, but every day feels heavier. One night, while sorting through old papers she had taken with her, she finds receipts and bank statements she had saved over the years. She flips through them absent-mindedly until something catches her eye. Large withdrawals marked as family expenses. She remembers giving money to her parents whenever they asked, never questioning where it went. But as she adds the amounts together, her stomach sinks. The money wasn't used for medical bills or emergencies as she thought. It had gone into the house, renovations, repairs, upgrades. Everything to make the house perfect for Madison's future. Elena's hands shake as she realizes the truth. She had unknowingly funded her sister's wedding gift. All those nights she skipped dinners out, all the shoes she didn't buy, all the overtime she worked. It wasn't just for her family's survival. It was for Madison's comfort. Her own sacrifices had been twisted into someone else's luxury. The betrayal feels unbearable. She paces the apartment, her chest tight, whispering, "They used me. They actually used me." Jasmine watches quietly, giving her space, but Elena can see the anger burning in her friend's eyes. The discovery leaves Elena torn. Part of her wants to fight back, to take her parents and Madison to court, to prove that her money had built that house just as much as theirs. She imagines standing before a judge, showing the receipts, demanding justice. But another part of her is exhausted. Court would mean dragging her family's name through the mud, facing endless arguments, and perhaps still losing in the end. She spends nights lying awake on Jasmine's couch, staring at the ceiling, asking herself the same question over and over. Do I fight, or do I walk away? In her dreams, she sees the house, her house, shining like a cage, filled with laughter that excludes her. In the morning, she wakes up to Jasmine's tiny kitchen and the smell of coffee, a reminder that maybe freedom lies not in fighting for the past, but in building something new. Still, the anger refuses to leave. Each time Madison posts another picture of her forever home, Elena's chest tightens. Each call from her mother telling her to move on feels like another slap. And each time her father remains silent, looking at her with quiet guilt, Elena wonders if she will ever forgive him for not standing up for her. Her life is no longer stable, no longer certain. Every choice feels like a crossroads: seek justice or let go. Reclaim what was stolen or start over. Both paths terrify her. Both feel unfair. And yet deep down, Elena knows she cannot stay in this limbo forever. Something has to break. Elena attends out of obligation but finally snaps when Madison makes a cruel toast implying Elena should learn to let go and move on. The rehearsal dinner is held at a fancy restaurant, filled with flowers, music, and laughter. Everyone is dressed up, smiling, drinking wine, and pretending the family is perfect. Elena sits quietly at the end of the table, feeling like a stranger in her own story. Madison, glowing in her white rehearsal dress, clinks her glass for attention. "I just want to thank everyone for supporting Ryan and me," she says, her voice sugary sweet. "This has been such a dream come true. And to my sister Elena," she pauses, looking right at her with a sly smile, "I hope you learn to let go and move on. Life is too short to hold grudges." The table erupts in polite laughter, but for Elena, the words are knives. Her hands tremble under the table. She can feel Jasmine, who came as her guest, watching her closely, silently urging her to stay calm. But something inside Elena breaks. The humiliation, the betrayal, the months of silence. It all crashes down at once. She stands, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Do you all want to hear the truth?" she says, her voice louder than she intended. The laughter dies instantly. All eyes turn to her. Madison frowns, trying to wave her down. "Elena, not now." "No, now." Elena interrupts. "You want to make me the joke in your toast? Fine. Let's talk about the real story." The room grows still. Elena's chest heaves as she continues. "I gave up my 20s for this family. While Madison ran off to chase her dreams, I stayed. I worked. I paid bills when there was no money. I took Dad to every appointment, sat by his bedside, made sure this family didn't fall apart. I gave my life to this house. And then," her voice cracks, but she pushes on, "then you took it from me. You stole it. You handed it to Madison like a shiny gift, while pretending my years of sacrifice didn't exist." Gasps ripple across the table. Relatives glance at one another, whispering. Madison's face turns red. "That's not true," she snaps. "You're just bitter." "Not true." Elena laughs bitterly. "Do you want me to show the receipts? The money I gave Mom and Dad for so-called family expenses? Guess where it went? Into the house. Renovations, upgrades, all of it, so Madison could have her dream wedding home. I was paying for my sister's future without even knowing it." Ryan shifts uncomfortably, tugging at his collar. Guests exchange awkward looks. Linda's face hardens, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Elena," Linda says sharply, "this is neither the time nor the place." "No, Mom." Elena fires back. "It's the perfect place. Because for once, everyone gets to hear the truth. Everyone gets to see the golden child for what she really is, a spoiled girl who never lifted a finger, who just takes and takes while the rest of us sacrifice. The silence is deafening. Madison slams her glass on the table. You're pathetic, Elena. Jealous and pathetic. This is my moment, not yours. Elena is about to respond when a voice cuts through the tension. It's Charles. For the first time in years, he raises his voice above his wife's. Enough, he says, his voice low but firm. All heads turn toward him. His face is pale, his hands trembling, but his eyes are filled with guilt. Elena is right. The room freezes. Linda stares at him in shock. Charles. He shakes his head. No. I stayed silent for too long. I didn't agree with giving the house to Madison, but I was too afraid to fight about it. I thought keeping the peace was better than speaking up. But I can't sit here and let everyone believe Elena's words are lies. His voice breaks as he looks at Elena. Much of the money you gave us. Yes, it went into the house. You are the one who kept it standing. If anyone has a rightful claim, it's you. The room erupts into chaos. Relatives whisper loudly, shocked at the confession. Ryan looks furious, clearly embarrassed. Madison's face twists in rage, her cheeks flushed. Dad, how could you say that in front of everyone? Linda slams her napkin on the table. Charles, you don't know what you're talking about. Don't drag this family through the mud. But it's too late. The truth hangs heavy in the air, undeniable. Elena's hands shake as tears blur her vision. For years, she had begged silently for someone to acknowledge her sacrifices. And finally, her father had spoken the words she needed to hear. She takes a deep breath, her voice steady now. I don't need the house anymore. You've already taken it. But at least the truth is out. At least now everyone knows what really happened. With that, Elena turns and walks out of the room. Her legs feel weak, but her heart feels lighter than it has in months. Behind her, voices rise, accusations, excuses, arguments. But she doesn't look back. For the first time, she feels free. Shaken, yes, but free. Elena meets with a lawyer, thanks to Jasmine's connections. She sits across from him in a quiet office, papers spread out on the table. She explains everything. How she paid for family expenses, how she stayed in the house all these years, how her parents gave it away to Madison without warning. The lawyer listens carefully, then speaks with a calm but firm tone. I understand your pain, he says, but legally, the house is no longer yours to claim. It was transferred into Madison's name weeks before you knew. Without written proof that your money was for the property, the court would not see it as your contribution. Even if we tried, it would be a long, costly fight. The chances of winning are very small. Elena feels a deep sadness, but also a strange clarity. For the first time, she accepts the truth. The house is gone. No legal battle will bring it back, and even if it did, it would carry too many scars. It would always remind her of betrayal. She realizes the house has become a chain around her neck, not a treasure. So she makes a choice. She will let it go. Not because she is weak, but because she is strong enough to start over. With Jasmine's help, she finds a modest apartment she can afford on her own. It is small with creaky floors and thin walls, but it is hers. When she opens the door for the first time, carrying boxes in her arms, she feels a spark of freedom. No one can take this place away. It does not belong to Madison or Linda, or even her father. It belongs to her. For the first time, she decorates a space for herself. She paints the walls a soft color she loves, hangs her own photos, and fills the shelves with books she has carried since college. She buys plants, even though she's not sure she can keep them alive, and places them by the window where the sun comes in. Every small touch feels like reclaiming a piece of herself. Life does not become perfect overnight, but it begins to heal. At school, she throws herself back into teaching with new energy. She starts an after-school program for struggling students, something she had always wanted to do, but never had the time or courage for. Her students notice her smile returning, her passion returning, and slowly, she feels proud again. Her friendships grow deeper too. Jasmine becomes more than just a friend who offered her a couch. She becomes family. Elena also reconnects with old friends she had drifted from while buried in family duties. For the first time, she allows herself to be cared for, instead of always being the one who gives. And then, love comes quietly into her life. She meets someone through a teacher's workshop, a kind, thoughtful man named Daniel. He is gentle, supportive, and most of all, he sees her for who she is. Unlike Ryan, who treated Madison like a prize, Daniel respects Elena's independence. He doesn't try to control her or diminish her. Instead, he admires her strength and her heart. Their relationship grows slowly, built on trust and shared values, not on show or status. Elena still passes by her old house sometimes. At first it hurts. But with each passing day, the pain lessens. She understands now that the house was never truly her safety. It was just walls. Her real strength lies in her choices, her resilience, and the life she is building with her own hands. By releasing the house, she has gained something far greater: freedom. She is no longer trapped by her family's expectations, no longer invisible, no longer silent. She has a voice, a home, and a future that is finally her own. Elena drives past her old house during Madison's wedding day. She sees lights glowing through the windows, music spilling out, and the sound of laughter drifting into the night air. Cars are parked up and down the street, and people in fancy clothes walk in and out, carrying gifts and smiling. The house looks alive, filled with celebration. For a moment, Elena slows down. She stares at the place she once called home, the walls she painted, the rooms she cleaned, the space where she poured years of her life. She can even picture Madison inside, laughing in her wedding dress, showing off the house as if it had always been hers. But something surprises Elena. The sharp pain she expected doesn't come. Instead, a calm settles over her. Yes, the house is full of people, but none of them know what it cost her to keep those walls standing. None of them understand the nights she sacrificed or the dreams she buried. And that's fine. She doesn't need them to. Because for the first time, Elena realizes she no longer wants it. The house is theirs now, but her life is her own. She has her little apartment, her freedom, her career, her friends, and even the beginnings of love. She has built something that cannot be taken away by papers or signatures. She takes a deep breath, her grip on the steering wheel loosening. Then she smiles softly, almost to herself, and whispers, "They took the house, but they'll never take me." With that, Elena drives on, leaving the lights, the laughter, and the past behind her. Hey loves, Two Hearts, thanks so much for staying till the end. Don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and hit that subscribe button for more. See you next time. Sparkles.